Hi, and welcome to my channel Hisame Artwork. In this video we're going to talk about how to set up your Fiverr account. So because they constantly keep changing the menus, I'm not gonna give like a step-by-step tutorial where I say go to this menu and click on this thing and do that thing. I'm just gonna give you some overall advice. First of all, the good thing about Fiverr is that it doesn't require your passport. Other freelancing platforms will do that, will ask for some kind of legal formal identification. Personally, I'm not comfortable giving some company my personal data. For example, for Patreon, there have been leaks. There are a lot of issues with certain systems. And so I'm really happy that Fiverr doesn't ask for that. So first of all, you're gonna have to make a main page where you describe some things about yourself. They kind of give you free hand to write whatever, but personally I would recommend putting your availability, so the hours in which you work. For example, for me, Monday to Friday, just because I want to have weekends for friends and family. Also the hours in which I work. I have a skewed schedule compared to what is normal in East Europe, just because a lot of my clientele is from the Western Hemisphere, so US, Canada, Britain, things like that. Therefore, I have to work later hours than would be normal for East Europe, but that is not an issue for me, as us artists, we tend to go to bed way later than normal. So I put my time in which I'm available. I also have important requests. So for example, no orders without talking to me first, simply because there are a lot of clients on Fiverr that don't understand English. Some of them can't even read very well, or they don't pay attention, and they can place orders without understanding what they're trying to buy, and then if they cancel, you get penalized because they made a mistake. So that's why I wrote everywhere, please no orders without talking to me first, just so I can be sure that we both agree and understand what's going on. And if I see that I have a communication issue with my client, I'll just say, I think it's best to choose another artist, just because I don't want the headache, and you can get also penalized because they made a mistake. Also, I recommend avoiding emojis if you want to look professional. That's just a piece of advice that is kind of universal. Personally, I still put some, because there are people that have trouble reading and images are easier for them, so I just use that to help them out. Also, I wrote down preferred projects, so mostly I want to work in the tween segment, so that is kids, early teenagers. That's kind of the art that I want to do. That's the target audience. And also experience, like, oh, I've worked 10 years doing this and that, which can differ from seller to seller. So how you create a gig is you click on this kind of an icon where it will say create a new gig, unless they change that and move it around. Also, you will get some prompts from Fiverr. Well, in this example, it tells me that my title is too long and convoluted. I'm sure they're right. Personally, I just put a lot of words so that it does show up in searches, because they only give you like 5 tags at most. And people can search for like different things in different languages, and the lingo for different types of art keeps changing, so I always have to stay on top of that. This is just how I do it. They recommend you do it differently. I suggest you check for yourself what is best for you. Another thing I want to tell you is that generally you can edit most of this information. So let's say if you have a typo, it's not the end of the world. You don't need to delete your gig and redo it. But the category you cannot change after publishing. And that is here, this thing here. So it says graphics and designs. I can no longer change that. I can change illustration to something else. I just want you to be aware that Fiverr can make changes without asking. For example, I had um, board games and books, illustrated books together just because it is art that is printable. And you are limited in how many gigs you can have. You can't have a gig for every little pamphlet and then another gig for a flyer or another gig for business cards. You generally have to clump them together. And I had that in the category of illustrated books, and they moved it to puzzle for whatever reason. They did not consult me. I emailed them. I did not get an answer. So just know that for some reason Fiverr can make changes to your category and then not ask for your permission or reply to you afterwards. They're not that great at communicating with the sellers. There are plenty of complaints. You can read more about horror stories on Fiverr. That's kind of how it is. And now some more details about a gig. So let's say you've established what you're going to sell, how many days it will take you, how many revisions you're willing to give, the price, all of that, what you'll give for the basic, standard, and premium packs. They do recommend you give like 3 options for people. And what I would recommend you do not forget to add is what you're not willing to do. So for example, here I refuse to do extra fast deliveries or any other kind of rush service just because I noticed that when I'm rushing, the quality of my work dips, and then whatever image comes out, even if the client is happy, it's going to go into your gallery if they click to allow it to the gallery, and then maybe you don't want something that is subpar to show up in your gallery because that will put off future clients. It doesn't say there, oh, it was done in 3 hours or 24 hours. No, it's just gonna show up the image and maybe the comment from the client saying, oh, they did such a great job, they finished it in an hour or whatever. You kind of have to hope that they write that there. So the dip in quality I do not like. Also, I don't like the stress. Also, it can happen that you get sick, you have a death in the family, something happens, and if you miss a deadline, then you get penalized. It doesn't matter if you had a good reason for it or not. Everything is automated on Fiverr, so I just do not accept rush jobs because of that. I often finish several days ahead of schedule just because I always add a couple of days on my schedule in case something happens. Like I said, you can get sick. You can have something happen. Another thing I do not do is religious, political, distasteful, or intentionally offensive topics. Just because I don't want the headache, I don't want it to ever be even close to breaching Fiverr guidelines, or even just being something related to a culture that I do not know, do not understand, and accidentally make something offensive to that culture somewhere on the planet. For example, I had an offer from an American to make a comic book about Hindu deities, which seemed like a fun project to me. I like doing comic books. I like doing stuff that is related to other cultures. But the simple fact that they were deities, and I know there are a billion Indians that are very sensitive to that kind of stuff, I just didn't want any potential harassment or headaches or getting my account suspended for whatever perceived offense I might accidentally do. So I just refused to do that, even though if it had been a friend asking me outside of Fiverr to do that, I would have done it. But like I said, I didn't know that person. I didn't trust them. They have my best interest at heart, so I just decided it would be safer for me to avoid any religious stuff, and of course any Christian, Muslim stuff like that I also avoid. And lastly, I don't do not safe for work content. So any pornography, no, I do not do it. I do kids art. I don't want to get into that. Not because I'm prudish. I have no problems with nudity or the human body or love or anything like that. It's just that, like I said, whatever art you do can go into the gallery. And if I'm specialized in doing kids art and I want to sell, I don't know, cookies and rainbows and unicorns, I don't want to have a big piece of porn show up in my gallery that would put off any potential clients that I'm mostly interested in. Pornography does sell very well on Fiverr if that is something you want to specialize in. In my country, it's also sort of illegal, so there's that complication for me. I know in other countries there's no problem with. Germany, Netherlands have it legalized. You can work as such and do those kinds of illustrations. For me, I just want to not deal with that because it's too much of a hassle. It's not what I'm interested in as my target audience and clientele, and so on and so forth. And you know, this kind of depends on what you want to do moving forward. Like I said, it's pretty lucrative. I wrote it here just to be clear and I don't get any messages that waste my time, because if you do not respond to every message, you will get penalized. If you take too much time to answer something, then it will show up that you're not responsive. So for example, I'm sleeping 8 hours a day and somebody sends me a message like right after I went to bed that, hey, do you want to draw some porn for me? And then the next morning I have to say, no, I'm not interested. Then I have 8 hours in which I did not reply to that person, and then it shows up in my metrics that, oh, it takes me 8 hours to answer somebody. So this is also a way for me to filter out messages I'm not interested in. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to get penalized. So that's why I wrote, because you will get a lot of messages on Fiverr to do porn if you don't specify everywhere in big letters, I do not do this. I am not interested. And even then, you'll still get messages from people asking you to do it because they didn't bother reading. So now let's say you've set up your gig. This is kind of how it would look. I recommend doing the first cover image with what you would offer for basic, standard, and premium, just because I think it's easier for people to see the kind of art that you offer. And then you can have some other stuff in the gallery, 2 other images that you select, and then there are going to be images from clients that have approved them to go into the gallery. And like I said, you can select the time, the reviews, the prices, and all of that, and that's something for you to find out depending on where you live and what kind of art you can do. But this is kind of how it would look. You would get here like your rating shown up, what your level is, and other information like that. They keep changing the menus, like I said, so more or less information may be available in the future depending on what they decide to do with the website. And lastly, well, not least, very important, beware of the analytics. You will have an analytics tab. You'll have criteria to fill out if you want to level up. At the moment, you need to make certain amount of orders filled. You need to be responsive. You need to make certain amounts of money for each level. So depending on what their target is, you'll be at one level or another. And like I said, if you don't reply, you get penalized. If you don't fill out all the orders, you get penalized. If you're late with a delivery, you're penalized, and so on and so forth, and your rating will go down. So just be aware of the analytics. I do want you to have in mind that if you get sick or take a vacation for over 60 days, you will be demoted because you need to be over 4.7 star ratings over a course of 60 days. And while I was at 5 stars for that time, I took a vacation for personal reasons. I couldn't work on Fiverr for 2 months. And because I wasn't getting any new ratings, they were considering it as 0. So I got a notification that, oh, you're gonna be demoted, just because you're not at 5 stars anymore, even though I was, because I didn't get any bad reviews. So just have that in mind. Also, any cancellations will penalize you. Even if it's the client's fault, they don't really read or care. It's kind of like on YouTube. You could email them and explain it very politely, why it's the client's fault and not yours. Sometimes you'll be lucky, even though the client made a mistake. They will admit the truth that they did make a mistake, but don't hold your breath on that. I've often had issues with certain clients. Generally, it's been resolved, but again, you have to email and explain to them, and the client has to agree that yes, indeed, I can't read and I made the order wrong, because they will often go for the lowest price. Let's say $10 for drawing a hat. And then they say, oh, I want a hat and a table and a room and a cat and a this and a that, and I want it all for $10. There are a lot of scammers. And if you did not specify correctly in the gig, or you did not make it clear previously, also it has to be everything in English. So if you're arguing with someone from your country in your native language, Fiverr employees can only understand English. So if you're arguing with that person in, I don't know, whatever language, they will not be able to understand what you guys are arguing about, and it can complicate things quite a lot. I've not had that experience because even with Romanians or with French people, I've always talked in English, and I've insisted on talking in English just because I know Fiverr employees do not speak anything else. Maybe they expanded in the past few years. Maybe they have some French employees now. I don't know. I would definitely say to check out the forums and see what the issue is, but my recommendation is to always keep the discussion in English and always keep it on Fiverr. They do not care if you argue on Discord or on Twitter. That is your problem that you left the platform. They are not responsible for that. So keep it in English, keep it in Fiverr, and like I said, if there are any issues, you can try and contact the staff and hope that it gets resolved in your favor if you are in the right. So yeah, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel grow. And let me know what I should explain next. Like if you have questions or suggestions about topics regarding art creation, art selling, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll get to it as soon as I can. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for all of your support. You can find me on YouTube, on Twitch, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Discord. Of course, you can commission me on Fiverr. You can also buy my merchandise on Lulu, Society6, and Redbubble. And if you just want to support, you can do it on Ko-fi. So yeah, take care everyone. Bye bye.